You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
Sheldon Primus.
Welcome to the Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus, where we blend safety smarts with business brilliance and a pinch of Sheldon's signature wit. Whether you're a safety pro, a fresh-faced consultant, or just safety curious, get ready for a show that'll educate, entertain, and elevate your safety game. Let's dive into the art of consulting with your safety Sherpa himself, Sheldon Primus.
This episode is powered by Safety FM.
Brad, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for just being part of it. And honestly, it was a chance meeting that we had on an Arizona hiking trail, and here we are sitting in an editing virtual booth together. So absolutely, I'm grateful that we had this meeting, and welcome my new friend to the Safety Consultant Show with me, Sheldon Primus.
Thanks for having me, Sheldon. It was a choice meeting, so thanks again for reaching out.
Yeah, that was cool because I got to meet you, your sister, your wife. I assume that was your wife too, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And it's funny how you explained your family as being a medical family. And I read that your family, the joke inside is that you guys could take care of from toe to teeth.
Yep.
That is awesome. So where do you stand in the pecking order of children?
Yeah, so we've got an oldest girl and a youngest girl. They're both nurses. And then we have 3 boys in the middle, and I'm the youngest boy. So we're
5?
We're all medical, a dentist, a physician, and a physical therapist. And we all told the little sister that she should have been a pharmacist because we need more drugs. So
there you go.
Everything else we had covered. Maybe we get one in the family later on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I'm the youngest of 5. So there's a lot of dynamics related to being in such a large family too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Life-changing.
Yeah. So your group is Phoenix Technical Healthcare. And just when one of the first things I guess that I brought up to you was we were talking and you're telling me a little bit about what you do related to not only doing physical therapy, but physical therapy for first responders and working with cities and counties. And I perked right up because that's one of the things that I love to tell people is you want to get involved with cities and counties because usually when you're in, you are in.
Yeah.
They'll have repeat business for you too. So tell us a little bit about how your journey was trying to you and Austin getting the Phoenix group started there.
Yeah. So Austin and I, we both met in grad school. Our wives actually were friends long before we met each other. But yeah, Austin and I, we went both to Northern Arizona for our doctorate degrees and became good friends there. We end up doing our clinical rotations and working together in some different settings. In 2019, he and I end up partnering in business, and both of us were I don't want to say fed up with, but just frustrated with kind of the traditional medical system and just wanted things to look different and to be different. And Austin always refers to it as Mayberry. Like, what if you could practice medicine in a place where it was just about a small town, just the people that you knew and care about? He says, what would you do? And if it was your own family member coming in, like what type of care would you give? And, how amazing would it be if you could do that all the time? So, excuse me, the driving force was to say, let's get away from insurance-based medicine. And I think just the big push initially was just to have that autonomy. So, 2019 we partnered, and I had a lot of background with first responders and working with tactical athletes, we refer to them as, and Austin had a background with professional golfers and other professional athletes. So we put together this kind of hybrid model of kind of high performance care, but focused very much so on the public safety sector, working with police officers and firefighters. And over the last 6 years, that's been kind of our major focus. And so our rebranding didn't take place until about 2 years ago, where we really just said, hey, our identity, our purpose is to maximize longevity, quality of life, and performance for first responders. And that's kind of opened this whole new realm of not just being reactive healthcare, not just, we say don't park the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, but, can we also get into building some fences at the top of the cliff and, prevention and teaching about biomechanics and mechanism of injury and, communication within the workplace. But it's been fun for us because we are very much, especially in the beginning, we were very much the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. And so you talked about that kind of repeat customer or seeing common injuries again and again and saying, hey guys, like these are things that we can prevent this. We can forecast when and how these things might happen. And if not just mitigate the severity of the injury. So, it's been an exciting road to kind of expand our minds and take away all the rules that sometimes medicine gets stuck in, and to really just say, what can we do to really improve, like I said, the longevity, which we say that's like the x-axis, performance, that's the y-axis, and then quality of life, we say that's like the z-axis. But all three of those dimensions, especially for first responders, like sleep, mental health, nutrition, stress management, exercise, all those types of things are things that there's not really a lot of rules when it comes to making somebody more healthy. And so that's kind of the story. That's how we got to where we are now.
Oh, nice. And name Phoenix spelled F-E-N-I-X. Since out in a suburb of Phoenix, it was really good that you had to differentiate yourself a little.
Yeah.
And I believe there's a MacGyver story in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's the sound of it, and then the spelling, and now a brand. So it's all progressed.
I was a big fan of MacGyver back in the day, so
Absolutely.
I always appreciate that.
A stick of gum and a paper clip, you can do anything, right?
No kidding. I mean, it's amazing. And I can't tell you that I've seen an episode of the new one just on principle. I don't know. I didn't do it.
It's like Hawaii Five-0, same thing. You got to stick with the original.
Yeah, good reference. I did not see any of the new stuff. I'm Nope, Ton Selleck, he's my guy.
Yeah.
When you guys had to pivot, because you said you started in 2019, and that brings a vivid memory back to us when we hear 2020.
Yeah.
So you guys made it through the pandemic eras. What did you have to do during that time period to either be sustainable or pivot or cut back? What did that time period look like?
That's the more time passes, the more we can really appreciate, when they say timing is everything. Um, I think we were still very much in a growth cycle then. And so we were building relationships and providing services. And we
Yeah,
say that a lot of the big businesses, they were kind of the big Viking swords where there was a lot of power and a lot of size, but not very maneuverable. While we were more like the Romans, we had these small little agility tools that we could attack with a little more precision. And I think that put us in a really good place. And quite frankly, if we were bigger than we were at the time, it would have been a lot harder for us. But I feel like it allowed us to really, at least for a month or two, I'd say, to really like reflect on who we are and what is our product and who is it that we want to, provide services for. I think there was a lot of reflection time. But after that, I think we were small enough, and luckily, just because of the mandates, we were able to stay open because as an essential service in medicine, um,
yeah.
a lot of people sought us out. I would say our community, um, we provide one-on-one care. We're in a relatively small setting, so people weren't feeling very anxious about, oh, I'm going to go to PT and surrounded by a big gymnasium full of people that are huffing and puffing. People, I think they felt very safe, and I think even a lot of our referral sources, they preferred sending them to us, knowing that we had this one-on-one business model that wasn't technicians and staff and a big front office. But like I said, it was more that Roman sword as opposed to the Viking that helped us kind of get through. And quite frankly, I felt like we were thriving. We had set some 5-year goals in 2019, and even with COVID's disturbance, we met those 5-year goals in the first 18 months. So definitely a lot of adaptation and maneuverability, but it was a time for us to grow.
Hmm. Man, I'm hearing a lot in that conversation there because first, knowing that you guys were a partnership, having to do a lot as a partnership to not only maintain your money and your practice, if you would, because you got to think about the family side too,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and then the practice side. It seems like you had a lot of planning, and not only planning, execution.
Mhm.
So does that look like team meetings between you two, or does that look like you email out some goals and or dry erase board sessions? What did that look like for you guys to get all those objectives met and even made?
Yeah, that's a great question. We say one of the great disservices of a formal medical education is that if you want to get into private practice, in a lot of cases you have very little, if any, professional education on how to create an LLC. What does a business structure look like? um, how exactly you talk about meetings and different roles and responsibilities, and you need to have an accountant and you need an attorney and articles of incorporation, and nobody's there to show you.
Yeah.
So I give Austin a ton of credit. He put boots on the ground first, and his ability to create order and to put things into structure is he's phenomenal with that. My gifts and abilities are more on the creative, maybe energetic side of things, where I'm more of an idea guy or more of a, hey, let's solve these problems in these ways. So putting those gifts together, I think really poised us in a position to say, hey, like we can do some good. But I would say the major domino that began a pretty significant change for us was we hired a lady by the name of Shelly Turner, and Shelly's our office manager, our practice manager. She had worked for the Table Group, which I don't know if you know anything about Patrick Lencioni or
No.
it's just an organizational behavior, kind of a business hygiene, organizational business entity, and they have some really, really good content. And of all the different books and the Harvard Business Review and Traction and some of these other real popular infrastructures for business, we tried to kind of read up and subscribe to those, but I really felt like it wasn't until we found kind of an infrastructure around a lot of the content from the Table Group that we really felt like we could find like, oh, this fits our style, this fits our personalities. And they've got a phenomenal book that I would say is probably one of the most impactful things on our business in at least the last 2 years. It's called The Working Genius. And basically they break down tasks. They break down like a service of work into like segments. And they even have kind of what would you call it? An evaluation or a survey that you can take, and it helps you to identify, what are the gifts that you have and what is the type of work that brings you energy and allows you to thrive and grow. And the neat part about it is you can take this survey, but if you take it amongst a group of your peers, people that you're working with, and you see everyone's different gifts, it will actually point out the type of relationship that can allow you to thrive together in utilizing your differences. But it also helps you identify some blind spots of if Austin's gift is to, edit and, make more efficient a system, and my gift is more to create structure. The way that we interact, there's certain things that because of the way we're wired, we may not see or understand each other perfectly, and it draws attention to those things. So back to the kind of the root of your question of staff meetings, we meet together, twice a week. One meeting is very focused on the process of the business. It's based on our relationships and execution of tasks and roles. We have what we call our standard operating objectives, and that's just how do things function. And then we have a second meeting for the week that's called our case management meeting, and that's very medical. We sit in a room with all the providers. We have mental health services, we have physical therapy, we have a primary care doctor, strength and conditioning, and all of us sit in the same room and we discuss the needs of individuals. And that's one that, like, it's exciting to see, what do people need? But I feel like there's a lot of camaraderie from that meeting because it reminds us that the common goal is always about the people that we serve. And so that's maybe a roundabout answer, but I think that's kind of how we've graduated or to matured into what we are today.
No, that's great because you need a full, I guess for you guys, it's different disciplines, but then there's the camaraderie and the blend, I guess, of camaraderie and then practical, actionable type of, movement from you got to do this today. And we've got this meeting and we've got this patient activity. Those two things have to be married together in order for you guys to do what you do.
Yeah. And
nice.
I would say that's a very unique thing about a medical business is that in order to practice medicine, you have to have a very intensive process to be licensed in whatever discipline you provide. And so you tend to be very dominant in that, but you also have to have a business that has procedures and process that have to mesh with that. And I think it's pretty uncommon for people to really thrive in both of those. And sometimes what I perceive is that if people are very business dominant, they tend to forget about the product of medicine needs to be very high quality. It needs to be personal. It needs to be, there's a healing and a very intimate, process to that. It's not just flipping patties or, washing a car. This is people's lives. But the other part is if people are really good at medicine and they are terrible at business and their processes and, the ability to run a business and, jumbled schedules and missing appointments and not giving reminders or billing incorrectly, that can then become really frustrating or develop distrust toward the medical provider. And so to mesh those together, to me, has been it's been some growing pains for us. But when you can do that very successfully, I think people love what happens here because they realize, oh, I have a really good business, but they have poor medicine, or I have really good business or really good medicine and it's a poor business. But when you find the two of those, it's a powerful combination.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, as those of you listening to this, you're trying to start your own business or you're running your own business currently, that's words to live by. You need a little bit of both. You got to have the business prowess to be really good and be good at what your discipline is. But then you're also going to make sure that you've got the foundation for business so that people feel like they could trust you with appointment making and they could trust you knowing that you're going to handle their billing right and you're not going to mess things up and double charge them or things like that. So that's a very good marriage, if you would, of practicality and technicality.
Yeah.
If I could say those words right.
Well, and I remember standing on top of the Superstition Mountains with you, Sheldon, and that's one of the things you said is if organizations just focus on taking care of people, everything else tends to work out. And I think that's pure wisdom. You've got some gray hair in that beard, and I think you've earned it. But that's the you're teaching young guys like me, not to forget that.
Yeah, look at your segment right there, because I was about to talk about your teaching at ASU, and you just went right to it. So tell me about that part, because I used to be an adjunct instructor as well for Florida Gateway College. And one of the things that always drove me nuts was students always asking me things that's in the syllabus. And I'm like, come on, man, you're supposed to read your syllabus, and you signed off that you read your syllabus.
Yeah.
So how's the teaching part when you're seeing people like my son who's going through the same discipline as you are, and he's learning to be a doctor of physical therapy, and you've got these young people that are getting into your field, and you got to get them to think how to utilize new information such as AI and work with the tried and true stuff from your discipline. That's the balance. So how do you approach your adjunct instructor side?
Yeah. So the backstory to that's is pretty interesting, but I had attended Arizona State University, had a great experience there, and developed some really meaningful relationships with professors who were more than teachers; they were mentors. But have become good friends over the years, and ultimately, as I got into practice after I had finished my doctorate degree, I just kind of got that itch to say, what else is out there? What else could I do? And a good friend and previous professor of mine, she said, well, come check out things at ASU. You're interested in a part-time, teaching position? I said, yeah. So I picked up a couple classes and really enjoyed it. And the courses that they needed taught, one was called evidence-based practice, which is in essence, how do you use research and literature to make medical decisions? And that was a great opportunity. And I think it was only a semester later, they said, we have a full schedule for you if you'd like to come on. And so I made the jump, and that whole process was just one. I'd never been associated with such a large organization, and that was a great experience. I have a deep love for Arizona State. I grew up down the street. I'm a Sun Devil through and through, and being associated with a very large, heavy ingenuity, based organization was awesome. But teaching students was phenomenal. But the real driver that allowed that door to open for me was these faculty members. They would say, hey, Brad, we have all these experts in academia and research, but we don't have any clinicians here. We don't have people that actually provide healthcare services. And this is a pre-medical, pre-professional, degree that they're receiving. And so the door that was opened and the emphasis that was asked of me was to say, hey, bring your professional experience. And they even motivated me to say, hey, stay on staff at the hospital, stay on staff providing medical service so you can be that voice of reason and logic. And that was so fun because I came in and I was teaching evidence and I was teaching about research, but the big focus that was really driven to me was, but make it real. Like, talk to them about not just the classroom and not just graduate school, but talk to them about what does it look like to really do this for a living and to really help people. And yeah, that's been a phenomenal experience. And I still go back. I'm trying to think, it's probably 3 or 4 times a year they'll have me come back and provide a lecture to the first year kinesiology 101, very first year of pre-med, professional degree students. And we talk about a lot of the same things you and I are talking about right now, but that's been a great relationship over the years.
Wow. Well, it's great to hear the story of how you now give back to the university that you love so much. And that's awesome. Go Devils, right?
Yes.
I love seeing adjunct instructors as they connect with students and truly help them see that this is what your path will be if you just stick to it. You got this, and give them that encouragement.
And such a blessing. I mean, I know you feel the same way, Sheldon, but I talked about that mentorship, people that were really there for me at a pivotal part of my life. And I shudder to think, had I not had somebody there to help me and it sometimes to advocate for me, to say, hey, this is a good person, and to write a letter of recommendation or to give me a phone call for a job interview to say, hey, this is a good person. Those people that intervened on my behalf, I feel eternally indebted to. And I think that feeling that is strong inside of me to say, there's some kid out there that can do a good job, that they need someone there to show them the way. And so I feel very indebted and very, very grateful for the people that have come before me. But there's days that sometimes I feel a little too busy. There's a lot going on. And when that happens, sometimes I need that reality check to say, hey, these people, their life is depending on it just like my life did. And I can't think of anything more valuable for a professional than to go find people that are maybe lost in their way, to give us context to what we're doing today and what actually matters, and to feel that gratitude of, oh, look how blessed I am. Look at how my life is prospering. And if I would have known that I would be sitting in this chair today, talking about these things, if you would have told me that 10 years ago, I'd say, no way that would ever happen. This would be beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah, it keeps you plugged in.
Yeah.
I actually teach roughly around, 200 students or so in the professional world. So they're all adults.
Yeah.
And as I'm teaching them some of the things related to health and safety and teaching them how to be good, just mindful safety and health officers and listening to their groups. And I hear some of these stories where everyone's like, oh, all I know is how to write people up. Come on, man.
Slap the hand.
People up. Yeah, slapping the hand, writing people up. That's not understanding the true problem. That's not understanding context. So I try to teach them context of what those behaviors are, or what the context of why did this person do what they did at the time they did it, for the reason they did it. Yeah. And that now gives you context, and then also hopefully empathy, because everybody needs a little bit of both. So I see that, or at least I hear that in what you're saying with your students. Yeah. To switch the thought slightly, but still thinking about context. When you deal with having to educate the people that hire you, I noticed that you use the matrix as to, this is what your worker can perform and this is how quickly they could get back, and then you translate that to, this is how much dollars you could solve or save, excuse me,
Mhm.
from these activities. Uh, what got you guys thinking about educating your potential customers in such a way?
Well, you mentioned earlier about I kind of visualize a Venn diagram of this is my scope of practice and this is somebody else's. Say you work for a municipality, whether you're a firefighter or maybe you work for HR or for a safety team in the municipality. But without question, they know things that I don't know. And I know things that they don't know. But I think finding that overlap is the first spot to say, hey, our common interest and our common knowledge is people. And then the great adage of seek first to understand and then to be understood, I think is to ask questions about what their job and responsibility is. And if a good example is you find somebody like in our industry, if we find somebody who's, say they're the head of health and wellness for a fire department, to begin with the question of, hey, what is it that holds your people back? What are the limitations or what are the problems that you face? As broad as that, and to let them share. In some, a question that I'll ask people is, I'll say, hey, if I gave you $500,000 and you had to spend it on your organization to make it better, how would you spend that money? And I've never heard the same answer twice.
Pizza party.
Yeah. and one guy, probably one of the more surprising answers is someone said to me the other day, I said, how would you spend that money to make, he works for a local fire department. He said, I think we have a lot of guys that have a lot of, auditory hearing damage. And he said, I would do a lot more investigation to have baseline measurements and then implementing, some PPE type interventions to protect people's hearing. And he goes, I really think that would improve their quality of life. And I looked at him like, wow, like he's thought about this and it matters to him and he's seen it enough times. But as I've asked more people about it, because I never really thought, there's a lot of first responders that end up having a lot of hearing damage. And I'm a physical therapist. That's not my scope. But here's a firefighter teaching a PT about a scope of practice that's not in my realm. But for me as a healthcare provider to say, let's go find somebody that can solve this problem. But it begins with that question of, what is it that you're struggling with? What's the problem for you? And that's been a really exciting thing. But things like we mentioned earlier, sleep analysis, understanding, what are the difficulties of working a 48-hour shift? What risks are there of administering a medication incorrectly after you've been up for 36 hours straight? Like, you look at these things that are hard for them, and ultimately you just come in to help solve a problem. So I think understanding them then creates our purpose. And quite honestly, the reason that we got into the mental health services and the reason that we hired a primary care doctor were to meet the needs of things that we saw repeatedly were not being met. And we said, I can't do that, but I can find somebody who can. And that was kind of the growth pattern for our business, but it was based off that whole principle of trying to understand first.
I know, that's great. And I know there's real data out there that just basically says that the first responders, their suicide rates are pretty high. And I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to be hyperbolic in any way, but
Yeah.
it's not as high as in the construction industry, which is at epidemic proportions right now.
Yeah.
But it's high enough that you may probably see a good sense of firefighters, police, first responders that have gone through some pretty crappy stuff, and they're internalize it because if you're drawn to that field, chances are you're an empathetic person. And then when you have to go through this over and over and over and over, it makes it where those years of having to see people at their worst, it affects you.
Yeah.
How do you guys deal with that when you see patients like that?
Yeah, that's I'm going to take a little tangent on that, and I
Please.
will answer the question. But you talk about first responders and what it is that they experience, and there's very real trauma. I mean, hearing people, the big, tough, salty men and these women that can just do incredible things, and when everything's going wrong, they're running toward the trouble and not away from it. They're amazing people. For me, I think I had this strong feeling for a long time that it was all the things that they saw. It was all the things they experienced that really created some of these deep wounds in their soul. And that to me was what I assumed. The more time I spend around them, the more value and the more emphasis I'm seeing around the importance of sleep. And the shift work, that's not the same thing as the traumas that they see. Those are two different factors. But what I've noticed with the sleep component of it is that somebody who works these shift work hours, which the World Health Organization just classified shift work as a carcinogen, people are beginning to research and appreciate the effects of what's happening when the body doesn't get to rest. But what I wanted to point out, Sheldon, is when you don't achieve REM sleep at night, REM is when your body processes all of the metabolic byproducts that happen during the day of us using our brain. And so REM is when our brain sleeps. And there's a substance that is basically, it's almost like the metabolic exhaust or the burn off of burning sugar in the brain. And it's called amyloid. But amyloid is a substance that, if not flushed from the brain during REM, it will begin to create plaques in the brain. And these amyloid plaques are the number one correlate with dementia and Alzheimer's, and they're finding correlations with the ability to manage and regulate emotions as well. And so it's been very interesting to see here people are seeing these terrible things, and it's an innate part of their job, but they're also working in a shift work setting to where you can't separate those two things, and it's a pretty negative combination. If you think about what's happening is I have these traumatic experiences, but I'm not allowed, or the infrastructure of my job doesn't allow me to physiologically cope with and heal from these things. That's a double dose. And so you talk about how do we deal with those on their end. I want to draw attention to the medical community, and you talk about the individuals listening to this podcast, to make sure we don't get too distracted by, what seems like the obvious answer, that there may be some other, what was the term you used earlier? Not circumstance.
Well, having the
Context.
The context.
That's the one. Yeah. Having the context is so important. And as for us, I feel like, I don't know, maybe this is more of a soft answer than a scientific answer, but I believe that there's gifts that are given to people who heal. When your mission and purpose is to help others, and you get in the boat with them, whether it's a back injury or an emotional trauma, when you go there and you experience those things with them, there's an ability to cope with that's greater than our own abilities, because there's a selfless motive to it. So I truly do believe that empathy, that true connection and desire to understand people and the things that they're caused to suffer with, there's just a lot of strength in that happens, that I'm not sure if I have a scientific answer for it, but I know that there's a lot of power in that.
No, that's great. And I know you're also a man of faith, done some mission work in your past.
I have.
So I feel like that comes back in your practice, in the way that you deal with people.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I have so much respect for people of any faith. And quite frankly, anybody who has those moral values, it doesn't have to be religious. It doesn't have to be Christian. But when people say, I have a higher cause, and my desire is to help people that are outside of my own selfish needs. Everyone has access to that strength, and I believe that's a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, thank you so much for being so gracious with your time, experiencing me asking you all kinds of out of the way questions, bringing up MacGyver and all other things that we talked about in this little time frame we had together. I appreciate your candor and also just the knowledge that you were able to share with the audience. Please tell us how to reach out to you, someone who may have, for us that are listening, a lot of my audience are consultants, and we try to refer other disciplines because we don't know everything, especially when it's occupational injury. We want to refer to someone qualified.
Absolutely.
So please share your information with us.
Yeah, our website to look at Phoenix Healthcare, Phenix with an F, makes us a little bit easier to find, which is great. We have an Instagram, Phoenix Tactical Healthcare. You can search. One of the things I was going to mention, Sheldon, that we're super excited about is we're actually putting together a tactical healthcare summit that's going to be here in Arizona, just in the Mesa area. The Arizona Athletic Grounds is a massive footprint of a sports facility, but we've put together a summit that's going to be coming here in the next 6 months that we're inviting healthcare providers, first responders, safety consultants, these individuals that are surrounded around how do we make the workplace safer. Definitely emphasized and focused toward our tactical athletes, our first responders. But that's one that anybody who has any interest in that, feel free to reach out. The other one that we would love to share our knowledge with anybody. If somebody's on more of the business side of things and they don't understand the healthcare side of it, and they say, what is the Industrial Commission? What are ODG guidelines? What are all these medical infrastructure and terms, or how do we know that we're getting good care? Anybody who had any question on any of those, they could reach out. And I don't know if you've got an ability to post my email address, but that'd be one that I'd be more than happy to make public. And anything we could do to help anyone with our knowledge, we'd love to share.
Oh, awesome. Brad Hall is the man. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and telling us a lot about the Phoenix, Phenix gang. So don't forget that. And that's really cool, the tactical side. I like that angle there. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being part of the show today.
Awesome, Sheldon. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's a wrap for today's safety show. Remember, safety isn't just about hard hats and caution signs. It's about business smarts too. Thanks for joining us on the Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus. Until next time, stay safe, stay savvy, and keep consulting like a boss. Go get 'em. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast or broadcast are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within the past hour, only examples. It should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the positions of the company. No part of this podcast or broadcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic recording, or otherwise without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast or broadcast, Sheldon Primus.
This episode has been powered by Safety FM.
Are you ready to make a difference? Introducing the Safety Consultant Blueprint course. Unlock your potential as a safety consultant. Learn the skills, strategies, and ethics to create safer workplaces for your very own client. From risk assessment to client acquisition, we've got you covered. Become a safety consultant and open doors to being your own boss. Join us and be the hero of workplace safety. Enroll today. Safety starts with you. Take the first step now. Visit our website and enroll in the Safety Consultant Blueprint course. Empower businesses. Protect lives. SafetyConsultantBlueprint.com.